Well, welcome to John Michael's Rock Box, man. Very excited today because I have author Joseph Schneider, whose latest book is What Waits for You, LAPD Detective Tully Jarsdel Mysteries. It was released earlier this year on Sourcebooks. And so we want to say a big welcome to Joseph Schneider. Welcome, man.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you having me on your show.
Dude, this is great.
Thank you.
I do a lot of interviews with, well, it varies. It really does. I can't really point my finger at any artist in particular. I've had artists and comedians and musicians and several authors, and I really like learning the ins and outs of your brains in writing. For instance, you being an author, but writing books, because but
Yeah.
looking at your bio, I would have never thought you would have written a book. But
No, I didn't either, man. It was a very long time before I basically discovered that all of these things I do. I mean, you can probably see there that I worked for 15 years as a magician, and that was a really tough way to make a living. And I started off doing like tableside magic in family restaurants,
wow,
and that was it was brutal, but it gave me really good hands, and I was able to sustain a career for a while.
man. So here's the thing: before you even dived into the magic thing,
Yeah.
they say on your as I read this, a passion for the arts at a young age, studied piano, hello, and
Yeah.
competitive ballroom dance. I mean,
um,
really?
yeah, you can tell that there was a little influence there from my folks, who really, they wanted me to have some skills that would be help me get through my teens and my early 20s, and I'm
Sure.
I'm really glad I did all that stuff, because I needed it later. I definitely, when I was really down and out,
Yeah.
I tried to get work as like a stuntman. I moved
Oh,
to Albuquerque for a year to try to get work as a stuntman, and I couldn't get any work. I don't know what the hell
oh
I was doing.
man.
I'm a stuntman. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So like I ended up teaching dance again, because like so I fell back on it. I'm so glad I did that. You
Wow.
never know the sort of stuff that you do, right?
Right. Sure.
It's gonna come back for you. And I think eventually that's why I just decided to write.
But you get to the point of in competitive ballroom dance, to be an instructor, you had to know your stuff, because you just sound like, hey, you know what, I do pretty good. Yeah, I can do lawn dancing, or in this case, ballroom dance is very hard. And
Yeah.
and to be an instructor, dude, I mean, do you just does it just sink in your brain and you just like, because it's coordination of the body, you got to hear
Mhm.
the tempo in your head, right? and
But
and and then
yeah,
do it.
well, like you, I love music,
Right.
and basically, if you think about it, dance is simply moving your body through space to music, and when you teach dance, you get to play whatever song you want. So I get to torment my classes with my entire playlist.
Right.
And with the more dances you teach, like you can dance to AC, you can dance to AC/DC if you teach West Coast swing, and that's
Oh,
awesome. So it's not all about the waltz and the foxtrot, which
right.
most of the time I can't even give that stuff away, man. But like, if I want to fill my roster, salsa, West Coast swing, East Coast swing, hustle, disco hustle, I can, it's good stuff.
Wow. That's,
Yeah.
me to try to dance, and you think, how funny is that? I'm playing out there in a band. I'm a drummer for several cover bands, but I look like Elaine from Seinfeld when I try to dance.
Wait,
Doesn't
wait,
work.
so you drum. What do you like to, what do you like to cover? What do you enjoy?
Oh, well, it really varies. I bounce all over the place music wise.
Hmm.
And mind you, I love jazz,
Hmm.
but in my head, I can't get the groove to play. I
Play
mean
bass.
really obstruct hard jazz.
Mm.
I like it, but I don't get it. But I hear it, but I can't play it. But it's okay. That's for those that can. You know, I'm one of those that like those, and I'm a big I'm a big metal guy. I love hard rock, and
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
I also
absolutely.
love some of the good pop. So
Mhm.
it's the I found out as I grew older, playing less is more. You know,
Okay,
and
so I'm right there with you. I cannot play jazz on the piano at all. I was classically trained, and I think I got to the point where it's like, I didn't learn how to improvise ever. So I have no skill at that, and I would love to learn, but I've got such a long way to go. So I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, for me, it's all about hard rock too. Yeah.
Oh
Love
yeah.
hard rock.
All right, we're a couple rockers,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. I play the theremin too.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
How odd is that?
It's odd. It's odd, but if you can play the guitar or the piano or the cello is
Right.
actually the best transition instrument for theremin. But
Sure.
you I guarantee you'd pick it up in a couple hours, you'd have it down. It's I mean, you can only play like legato at least to start out with, like the Godfather waltz or whatever.
Right.
But oh, it's so much fun. My students love it.
Oh, dude, that's insane. And by the way, Joseph
Yeah.
Schneider
Yeah.
on with us for those of you that are just listening. Joseph Schneider, of course, author of some fabulous books. And we're discussing music now. We're going to bounce all over the place. I know our main focus is this book, but if you were to read his bio, and maybe I'll share that with you, but maybe I won't. I'm not sure. Uh, you just go like, how did a guy do all that, end up writing a book? I mean, why not? You've done everything else, from ballroom dancing, the piano, magician, mentalism. Uh,
Yeah, love
what
mentalism.
is that exactly?
Mentalism is it's basically one of the three main branches of magic. If you think magic, you can divide it up into stage, which is like the stuff you need a really big budget for. And then you have close up, which is, very small groups, very up close, often in the spectator's hands. And then you have mentalism, which is the illusion of supernormal mental powers, but without claiming that you're like, like it's not the fake psychist. I don't like that stuff at all. This is just for entertainment purposes.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Oh, and might I add, all of you are listening to Joseph Schneider, uh, along in that line of illusionist, and mentalism. He was granted membership in the world's most prestigious magicians clubhouse, the Magic, was it Castle in
Yeah, the castle.
2007?
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah, I love the castle.
see,
Castle's a
so,
lot of fun.
so he can teach dancing and is in the Magic Castle. You mean when you achieve, you achieve.
Oh, that's very kind of you. I get obsessive about stuff, and I was an only child too, man. So I tend to hyper focus on things until I
Yeah.
get competency with them, and
Yeah.
then
Is
I
it that?
usually
Is it this? I just got to conquer kind of a deal.
yeah, I guess so. I also I'm influenced by movies. So if I see a movie and the character does something really cool in it,
Yeah.
this was a bigger problem for me when I was younger. But then I would want to be that guy, and so I would try to learn it. And that's what happened. That's how I even got
Oh.
into magic in the first place. But it stuck with me, unlike my stint as a ventriloquist, which was a
My
huge
goodness.
failure. And I trained, in Coney Island sideshow school. So I did sideshow stuff for a while, like glass walking, fire breathing, straight jacket escape, stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, no,
It
that stuff's
just
fun.
just keeps getting better. Wow. Oh, oh my goodness. I love this bio. This is great.
Oh,
You
thanks.
are an extreme individual, and what a person.
Well,
I
thank you.
think I think you probably live the life of a lot of people that just go like, boy, I would love to do what that guy Joseph Schneider does. And honestly, and we got more of this bio we want to talk about, but I maybe we should bend a little bit and talk about your current book that
Mhm.
you got coming out. What waits for you, LAPD Detective Tully Jarsdel Mysteries.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is this a follow-up? Is this like
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
another one,
so
right?
yeah, it is. One Day You'll Burn, which was the first, these are modern LA noir mysteries. I'm born and raised in LA. It's really my town, and so these books are kind of my love letter to LA. At the same
Ah,
time, they're these yeah, they're mysteries. They're a little on the dark side. They're definitely not for everybody. I've had a lot of people ask me why they're so intense.
Right.
That's usually not the word they use, but and then but it's kind of, it's, you know, my darkest stuff goes into my books. I'm a very friendly guy. You probably wouldn't know it by reading my stuff.
Right, right. I mean, because that's just because you write something doesn't mean that's
Yeah,
who you are.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
and so can you describe about these books that and by the way, let me screen share a little bit and so that I can put this up there for you. And I want to screen share that Amazon books. One Day You'll Burn is the one we're talking about. See, that's the first, right? Tully Jarsdel Mysteries one.
Yeah, that's the first one.
Okay, so we have that one, and then the follow-up. It's same thing. Amazon. You can go over there. What Waits for You, LAPD Detective Tully Jarsdel Mysteries #2, because one wasn't enough for most people. So there you go. You want to check those out at Amazon.com. And so, my friend, it is great. And can you explain a little bit about the books without really
sure. Well, the basic premise, I had to come up, I always wanted to write something that was fresh, you know, but participate in the mystery and thriller genre, which is my favorite. So I had to come up with a detective who was who would take, I'll put it to you this way, like, I have a huge weakness coming into this whole genre because I don't have a background either in law enforcement or as a crime reporter like Michael Connolly did, who's a phenomenal writer. So I had to start from a position of real ignorance in the world. And I did a tremendous amount of research, but I knew it wouldn't give me that authenticity that I needed to write a veteran character. So I took advantage of that weakness. I created a character who was basically a failed PhD candidate in ancient history, decides to join the homicide bureau, become a detective. So my character is very well educated, but he's not educated in law enforcement very much. He's not from that world. So he's considered unusual and he's disliked by everyone, including his partner, at least in the first book.
Wow.
Very much so.
Wow. And from no background in law enforcement whatsoever. It was just
you can, because you can do that, and like you can join. He joined very late. He joined in his late 20s,
right,
and basically abandoned his academic career, much to the horror of his parents, and went into that. So I forget what the cap is on joining. There is like an age that you cannot. I mean, afterwards, like right. Thanks, but if you get in before that, yeah. And he's a really good test taker, so he was able to accelerate very quickly, and ends up in Hollywood homicide. I grew up in Hollywood and the Los Feliz area. I love it there, and so I try to include a lot of local flavor.
Oh, did you when you were writing notice, like, I don't know, law enforcement around you, your surroundings or with police officers and stuff? Was it, are you noticing what they're doing and hanging out? And
I spent a lot of time. I was very fortunate to take some what are called Citizens Academy courses, where some departments offer this, where you can basically, it's a way for the departments to encourage a kind of community relationship, right? And so you can participate in these programs where they'll, every week they immerse you in one aspect of the department. So one week it's the morgue, and you learn everything about the morgue in that night. And then the next week you learn about crime scene investigation. So they teach you how to do fingerprinting. And then the other one's like the call center, where you spend an evening talking to those guys. And so I did that a few times, and I did that course, and it was a major help. But I also have a technical advisor that I work with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, gee whiz, man. That's Yeah, and so I guess it leads me to this other question is to write the book and just can you and by the way, for those of you listening, thanks for hanging out. Joseph Schneider, crime fiction author, is on with us today. And how does that just evolve in your head? I mean, it's like, I think I might want to write a book, and then you do start writing a book, and then you're creating characters and all that, and you got to do storyline. How does that work?
That's
Really?
horrible. It's hard, man. So I start with the vibe. I actually think, what do I want my reader to feel as they
Right.
read this? Do I and then I reverse engineer the story from that theme or that vibe that I want to create. And then the story usually comes around that. There's a lot of technical things that I do. I keep a character manifest, so I don't like repeating character name sounds. And you'll find, if you've ever seen a movie where they cast a bunch of, like, this often is a problem with some like war movies, where you see the soldiers with their helmets on,
Right.
and with the dirt and everything, you're like, wait, who's that guy, right? But you don't want that same thing to happen in a book, so you don't want a lot of characters with the same names. So, like, there's technical things you do. You keep a character manifest, you beat out the action, you divide your story into discrete units of action, right?
Oh,
And you have those all there, so you know where you're going. Now, not everybody works this way, but I
right.
feel like it's building a house without blueprints if you do that. So I think it's a huge risk. So I beat out everything first. And but the first thing I start with is that vibe. Yeah. I want to
Yeah.
know what do I want the emotion to be in the reader.
Wow. And do you storyboard? So
You mean like actually draw images?
yeah, draw images, kind
That's
of like.
such an yeah, that's such a great question. I love storyboarding, and I love looking at storyboards. And I guess I try to think that way because I adore movies, and I always have. So I try to
Sure.
think about cinematically, when in my head, I do imagine what it would look like. Yeah, very
Right.
much so. Yeah, thank you for, yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I would think, as you're creating, you kind of storyboard but that's in your head, not like a
Mhm.
lot of people would put
Yeah,
on paper, for
right.
instance, or maybe a laptop or however they do it now, because,
Yeah.
I've never written a book, so I have no idea. It's just, do you like sit there when you're writing and you got this big whole creative thing going? And by the way, Joseph Schneider on with us today. And you're just in a groove, you're in a groove, and then boom. What is it called? The wall? You hit a wall and you're just like, I can't find it. I just got stumped, man.
Yeah, that happens. It's really hard. Um beating the story out beat by
Yeah.
beat and finding those units of action, that will is often prevention and cure all at once, but
Sure.
not always. Especially if you get notes from your editor and you've got to make big changes, then sometimes, yeah, you can hit those horrible walls. But I have an escape chute, and that's my writer's notebook, where I write down everything that interests me at all times, and I keep a list. Sometimes it's just a fact that'll come up and I write it down. Like, I learned the other day that no, like a month ago, that 5% of people have a third nipple, a supernumerary nipple. I didn't know that. I didn't know
I
5%. That's a
heard
lot of
that.
people, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, I write that down. And that goes in the writer's notebook. Now, I don't know when I'm going to
Oh,
use that, but I've got over 100 pages of, like, observations, ideas, bits of dialogue over here, like a bar or a coffee shop. It all goes in there, right? And
that's fabulous.
and it works. And that'll often bail me out of those frightening moments of the blinking cursor.
Sure. Dang, that's a creative idea. I mean,
Oh,
seriously, I should start doing. I have to steal that from you, man.
it works, man. I'm happy to send you pages of it so you can see kind of where I go. But yeah,
Yeah, that'd be great.
yeah, anytime.
Because you do. I mean, when you think about it, if you have those little side notes and you're just like, well, like for me, like getting on radio, and some days it's just like you and that wall where I have no creativity whatsoever. And I almost verbatim read whatever I'm going to talk about, which blows. So you just have an off day sometimes. But if you have things like those kind of notes, that could like just change the whole momentum of you're having a blasé day and just go like, oh, hey, by the way, did you know that 5% of people got 3 nipples? Yeah. Isn't that weird? So kind of a deal, just because there it was written down that you wrote some time ago or whatever. And again, Joseph Schneider on the phone with us, who wrote several books, and you can find both of them on Amazon. And so probably if you haven't read the second one, you got to start with the first, right? It just makes sense.
Yeah,
Don't need to.
I would have. You don't really need to if you really want to get a sense of like where his journey, particularly that with his partner, because his partner is really old school,
Right.
and came up the hard way. So if you want to get a sense of their kind of partnership and its evolution, but the way you're supposed to write series these days is they really want them to be able to stand alone. So you have to kind of subtly recap without sounding too exposition-y.
Right. Well, I can kind of see that too, because
Yeah.
I think I see that a lot in say a TV series, for
Oh yeah.
instance, where you can watch something and
Yeah.
then they'll go back in time. In fact,
Mhm.
some of their characters in these TV shows will have their own little show where they started to the part where you were watching it somewhere else down the line. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so I can kind of see that with this book. That's a great idea, though, to be able to bounce from the second one. It's kind of like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Where do we start at? 4 or something like that.
Right. And you have to do it in such a way that no character says to another one, like, wow, this reminds me of that time last week when, you can't do that. So you got to be subtle about it.
Absolutely. It is Joseph Schneider on the line with us, who is like he said, born and raised Los Angeles. And I'm probably going to into your bio again, because it is just fabulous.
Oh,
Now,
thank you.
if you missed the beginning, he studied piano, competitive ballroom dance, a magician, mentalism. He was into that. He can be an instructor for dancing. He was part of the Magician's Clubhouse, the Magic Castle, and then I find out towards the end when we were talking earlier that you also did all those sideshow kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, that stuff's dangerous though. You got to be careful. Like if you do it wrong, like my instructor knocked out part of his 2 front teeth doing the mouse trap on the tongue effect, which
Oh,
is yeah. So this stuff, you got to be careful with that stuff. I I I wouldn't let my son do it, you know.
right.
So, but so you gotta be so careful with that stuff. And the fire eating is really dangerous. And the sword swallowing, I don't do sword swallowing I tried it. I did like the first few days of practice.
Right.
Got to practice 7 times a day. And I said, nah, this just isn't for me. So there's a few ones that I abandoned along the way, but I still do it. I still do straitjacket escape because it's fun. And my
Wow.
students love it. So
Oh, God, that all just sounds fabulous, man.
it's fun.
So you're married, right? Kids?
I am, yeah. I'm married. I got two kids, and I've got a day job that I love. I don't write full time yet because I actually don't know a lot of writers that do. It's pretty rare. So I have at any given time I've got like two or three gigs that something I'm doing.
Right, right. And do you see yourself as a full-time writer down the road, maybe?
I don't think I will ever leave teaching because I love it so much,
Ah,
and it's kind of like it keeps me sharp,
right.
because if I
Sure.
weren't doing that, I don't think I would get a lot of the material that because I have to teach history, science, and creative writing. So with those 3 subjects, I'm always keeping current on the latest developments in them. So, and
Right.
reaffirming what I think about those subjects. So,
Uh,
and adding to and refining. So I get a lot of my ideas from researching to teach my classes, if that makes
sure.
sense.
And what grades do you teach?
I only teach fifth grade.
Fifth grade.
I teach fifth grade. I've been teaching. This is my 7th year teaching fifth, and it's like the best job in the world. I love it.
Right. Well, you know, again, hats off to teachers because
Thanks.
yeah, teachers, you got it tough, man. You
It's-
got to
it's a-
buy all your. It seems like you got to buy all your own stuff to teach in your class these days.
I'm in public schools. Yeah, that's generally the case. We're lucky that I teach at a small private school, and they're
Good.
really helpful with that sort of stuff. But I still,
Awesome.
you
Sure.
got to, because if you stick to the curriculum, it's just not very stimulating. So you want to get the kids all kinds of stuff that to keep
Right.
them engaged. I love what I do. Can I ask you a question? If
Sure.
you don't mind.
Yeah, no.
Do you have, because I love the art of DJing. I was just curious, do you have any influences in your line of work, guys that you listen to growing up that you're like, hey, I love their style?
Well, you know, I can't really pinpoint a lot of just guys in general. There's
Mhm.
one that stood out when I was a kid, and I just loved his radio show. He's I don't think he's no longer with us again. He was on an AM radio of all things.
Mhm.
His name was Dr. Donald D. Rose, and
Okay. I'll write that
he
down.
he was a morning guy on a show called KFRC, and was just to me like the best thing ever. I loved the guy. I just because I could hear creativity going on in his head, and it sounded like he was having a blast on the radio, and when you listen, it's like reading a book. You
Yeah.
know, you're in there, and you're captivated, and well, in your reading, I was captivated with his discussions, and almost looking forward to his breaks. It was
Mhm.
becoming equal with the music. So I would like to want to hear him talk as much as I wanted to hear the songs. So
I'm going to listen to that, because there's a service I subscribe to where you can listen to where you can listen to DJs even if they're no longer with us.
right,
If you listen to Real Radio, I love
right,
it. Yeah,
yeah,
so I'm going to put that in there, because I only listen when I'm like writing and stuff. I turn on KHJ Los Angeles from the 60s, and I
right,
can play any day that I want. And I'll try to find the same day like that I'm working in currently back then though. And so
sure,
I have that going a lot when I work. So Donald D. Rose, you said?
yeah, Dr. Donald D. Rose.
I will write that down. I mean,
Yeah.
I will listen to that on Real Radio. That sounds cool.
It was fabulous. There's been many others along the way, men and women alike. Some
Mhm.
women, when they come on, of course, you just like, ooh, her voice sounds great.
Yeah.
But then you listen to their content, and their
Mhm.
content had a lot it just sucks you in when and
Mhm.
a disc jockey can just pull you in to their world of whatever they're talking about,
Yeah.
and help you forget about whatever it is you're thinking about. And you're just in there going like, yeah, man,
Mhm.
I like them. And it's different for everybody. Not, like what I like is not going to be the same as what you might like, but um, I think there's a lot of talent out there in the radio world. And I just try to be, what it comes to me to do radio is you got to be yourself. You're gonna find,
Mhm.
you imitate a lot of people, and well, I like the way they do that. I'm gonna try to do that, and you kind of pick up pieces along the way, and eventually you got to find your own groove, and I think that's when you become most successful when the groove sits with you and you just be you, and I think people will start to dig you and hang out and listen.
I love that. It's the hardest thing in the world to be you. It really is. It took me so long. I wasted so much time trying to imitate things that I admired, and just to get back to where I started in a way. Yeah, but
Yeah,
that is some of the best advice that you just gave. That's
yeah.
wonderful.
It's just amazing, because really it comes down to being yourself, which a lot, like you just mentioned, it's hard. Because like what I don't really, sometimes you'll look at yourself and say, nah, I don't really dig that person I'm looking at in the mirror. But
Yeah.
you got to learn to dig yourself, man. I mean, and just because that's everything. I mean, like you, right? Yeah, the things that you did, you must have liked yourself because you conquered a lot of things.
Well, thank
So
you.
that's confidence. And confidence comes from liking yourself. It's a love of yourself, which I'm not saying
Mhm.
the love of yourself is not to be like, oh, hey, of
Right.
course I can, no, it's not that kind of love. It's just,
Yeah.
you love yourself because you think, you're good, like everybody else is good.
Mhm.
And so off you go and do things. So Joseph Schneider on with us, author, just an amazing talent. What does your family say? Like the kids, Dad, what do you do? Write another book? Whoa. Did they see your bio? Do they know all these things that you've done?
Yeah, no, my boy is 7, so it's kind of abstract to him. I think
Sure.
what I do. I think if I were like an astronaut or something, that would that would
Oh,
be
got it.
that would really excite him. But but I think he likes the fact that because I'm also a school teacher,
Sure.
our house is full of things to do, and I want to give him I want him and my daughter obviously a spectacular childhood.
Right.
But yeah, I probably won't let him read my books until he's like 15.
Yeah. Well, that kind of makes sense,
Yeah, it works.
And so for all of you that
Mhm.
are out there and looking forward to reading this book, again, you can find them on Amazon and they're just amazing. You got to go check it out. What waits for you, LAPD Detective Tully Jarsdel Mysteries? And so go look that up. Uh, Gee whiz, what is your wife? How does your wife, it's
She's
like,
amazingly supportive. I couldn't do any of this without her help because often I work I get home from my 9 to 5 and
yeah,
hang out with the kids, hang out with the family. Then she helps me, get them to bed so then I can do my writing job. So then I write from, about 9 to midnight. And then, but I wouldn't be
oh,
able to do any of that without her help. And she's also
sure.
very understanding because you got to make a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah.
You don't get to go to, very many family events. But these days, like you don't really notice so much of that stuff. So it's not as big of a problem as it normally would be.
Oh
But
yeah, with COVID. So was your teaching online for a while there
a
since
little bit, but we got a special dispensation if we followed some guidelines. So we've been able
right.
to teach in person, but
Wow.
it's very everything has to be very sanitary and masked up, and
Sure.
it's hard. It's hard to smell your face like after hour 6. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
But
That's enough.
yeah,
I'll
but
be right back, kids. Teacher's gonna take just a 5 minute.
yeah, yeah, it's hard. It's no good, but it's definitely better than the other way because I'm sure you've noticed too that you just get burned out, man, if you do staring at screens all day
Uh,
long. It's
oh
hard.
yeah, it is. I mean, because like well, radio is that, and I've been doing this since the '80s, the mid '80s, and what are you talking to? You're talking to a screen, but there's thousands of people that are listening, and so it sometimes when you really that concept really hits you in the head, you're just like, oh damn, oh, and you kind of like, oh, then it goes away, but then you just keep going, But it really is. Sometimes I used to put pictures of things I'd look at, and talk to
Mhm.
that.
Really? That's so cool to know that. I would love to know more about the ins and outs of DJ work because it's like I said, it's something that's always fascinated me. When I was a kid, and I grew up with Don Steele, the real
Right,
Don Steele.
right.
And
I
he was on,
remember Don Steele.
yeah, he was on K Earth when I was a kid. And I always thought it was so cool how like he'd be talking and rapping away as the song was starting, but he always stopped right when the singer started. And I always thought, man, that is so cool that he clearly knows every song backwards and forwards. He knows exactly but he times it out perfectly like that, just off the cuff.
Yeah.
Is there a name for
Yeah. Yeah. Hitting your post.
hitting your post? See,
Yeah.
now that's gonna go in my writer's notebook, because that is,
Yeah.
I did never heard that before.
Yeah. It's and we all do it. And there was a time where they didn't want us talking over a lot of the outro of a song or the intro of a song, and particularly rock songs. But that's all changed. Now they just don't want the momentum to stop flowing. So you kind of got to start doing your little verbiage towards as close to the end as possible and as quickly as possible into another song without losing the flow. So from one song to another. And sometimes there's no intro. So you have to let that last song fade. And then, if you're going to do a break, you want every break to have something to mean something. And not just like, oh, you're listening to 104.3 the Hippo, and next song, hey, boo. Okay, great. You could say, I don't know, something, something fun that's going on. Hey, that 5% of people got 3 nipples. Hey, here's Aerosmith. Or whatever. And
Right.
and you kind of, and that's why you're building your character, become you and liking yourself, loving yourself, getting out there and just having a good time with your listening audience and yourself, because, especially if you make yourself laugh, sometimes people don't get it. And you tell them that, well, you don't get it. But if you were in my mind, you'd laugh your head off, And so it's a blast. For those of you hanging out, Joseph Schneider, author, and so many other things. I would read the list all over again, but we would spend a half hour if I were just to read you his bio. And man, how it's just fascinating, all these things that you did. 2 kids, a wife, and a teacher. Hello, everybody. And by the way, let me screen share something here really quick, because I want to screen share this with you, and this would be your website at jschneiderbooks.com. So head over there, and you can get everywhere from there, right? Contacts and
Yeah. And if anyone, like these days, we're not really doing book signings in person, but if anyone wants a signed book plate, I'd be happy to send one to anyone who wants one. You just email me and I'll shoot it on over to you.
There it is. That would be fabulous. And so from there, there's links they can go to your Amazon and all that stuff, purchase your books.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
absolutely. It's the best way to find Joseph. So I think that's great, man. I keep going back to looking at your bio, and it's just like, it's all right. What else is on your mind? I mean, books are great, and I'm just amazed that you could sit there and do a crime novel like that, and it's a little dark for all of you that are listening again. So don't give it to your kids until after you read it, parents.
Yeah, definitely not. One of the hard things is, when I, someone will find out, like, this guy, the books are, they're very unpleasant. Parts of them are pretty unpleasant, and they'll wonder, like, does it have anything to do with your personality? But as we were discussing earlier, it really does. And it's like playing a role, when you're an actor. Some guys play heavies a lot.
Sure.
I think after the third one comes out in April, I'm probably going to try to write something a little bit more lighter, because it's tough to maintain this kind of, grimness. I try to have something redeeming going on, at all times, but particularly towards the end. But I think I actually want to write a book on teaching techniques, on keeping kids engaged and like doing that. I would love to do that next. So I want to mix it up a bit.
Sure.
We'll see what happens.
Well, because everybody's looking for those kind of self-help books. I guess would it be considered self-help?
Yeah, in its own way. I I feel like when you're a teacher, you have an opportunity to be something really special. You can you can be you can infuse a child with passion
Sure.
for forever, if for
Yeah.
you can, because you can show them a glimpse of the possibility in what an educated mind can achieve. So to me, that's a huge responsibility. And it's the kind of responsibility, if you think about it a lot, it actually kind of locks you up, because you're like, wow, I don't want to screw this up. So
Yeah.
every day I take what I do very seriously, and I always want to get better. So but maybe if I write that, it'll help me solidify my own approach. But anyway, I love being a teacher. It's so much fun.
So
Yeah.
in fifth grade is still very impressionable. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yeah, but I don't, I never want to tell the students how to think. I
Right.
want to show them how to use logical processes. And we spend a lot of time on fallacies and cognitive illusions, and to show them where the traps are that exist in the brain, how someone can frame a question to you a certain way that leads you down a path. Like if I were to ask, and how do you pronounce the capital of Kentucky? Is it Louisville or Louisville? Most people say, well, Louisville. And you say, well,
Right.
actually, no, the capital of Kentucky is Frankfurt. But you phrase something a certain way, and you close off avenues, right? So
Right.
we are so easily manipulated. And I think the most valuable thing that kids might gain out of my class is how to use this incredible, computer in our heads. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
It's not, you're kind of helping them to become more aware.
I hope so. I really
That's what
hope
it
so.
is.
Yeah.
I wish I would have learned that when I was growing up, because,
Yeah.
you got me on that one too, Louisville. And I was just thinking, yeah, huh? I say Louisville, and so that's where I was taken. But,
Yeah.
had have I really used my brain, have been like, right, that's not even it.
Yeah.
So, uh,
So we spent a lot of time on cognitive, we spent a lot of time on confirmation bias, the sharpshooter fallacy. I have a poster in my room of them. I'm always trying to get the kids thinking about that stuff.
oh, that's great. Because having a mind like a sponge at that young age, you can absorb so much. And if you have the right teaching, that would make a big difference in your upbringing, I think. And I think that making their mind creative, I think that's great. You're a great teacher, Joseph.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you so much.
Joseph Schneider, who's a teacher, like a magician, a ballroom dancer, a pianist, a author. Did I miss anything?
Well,
A husband and a
no,
dad.
I'm one of the great shower singers of Walnut Creek, but that's about it, man.
Isn't that
No,
great? Isn't
I,
that
uh,
great?
I wish I was. I'm. You've inspired me to really get back into piano again, because I've neglected it for a few months now, and every time I pass it, it's like I can
Yeah.
feel it silently admonishing me, and I need to get back to it. I have some pieces I really want to do. So thank you for re-inspiring me.
Oh, absolutely. I love piano. I really do.
Yeah.
My parents, when I was young, made me take accordion, and this was popular still because, uh, gee, what was that? Was I just forgot that TV show host's name with played accordion.
Lawrence
Uh,
Welk?
yes,
No.
thank you.
Yeah,
Hello,
sure.
brain fart. Hello, everybody. It was a big thing. And accordion was a big instrument, believe it or not.
Mhm.
And I actually got really good at it and was almost top of the class when I was learning. And then I stopped. And I wish I would have kept doing that, because that would have led to that,
Mhm.
playing
Mhm, mhm.
piano. I love piano. And I kind of started to sort of try to pick it up, but it, your brain gets just clogged with all these different things, and it's just harder to absorb. Okay, I forgot how to read notes. I forgot time signatures. I forgot, where the placement of a note is on the scale and everything. And so, and then, of course, a lot older than I was back then, and it'd be a lot harder to get it, but it can still be done. It'd just be a longer process.
That is so cool. The accordion, man. Man, I would love to learn how to play that.
Well, if you can do piano, you can do accordion.
Really?
I think so. You just learn, with the accordion, it's how to see if I remember, it was the buttons are on the right, depending, I guess, on how you are, right or lefty. And the keys on the left, buttons on the right, buttons, you find middle C by one of them has a little hole in it. And so that's middle
okay.
C. And then, then you learn your way around which ones are which, and then in, out. Just, the air that you create makes the notes, right? So that's
That
the only
sounds like
difference.
fun.
I bet you'd like it.
I would like it. I love a challenge. My wife would probably kick me out of the house. When I play the theremin, she doesn't. She makes me practice when she's out of the house with it, because that's a horrific sound. If you're learning a song, it sounds like, wailing.
Yeah.
So, but and I told her I want to take out the bagpipes, and she's like, no, you're not going to take out the bagpipes.
You're not doing that. No,
No,
Joe.
no, no. And it's like, I looked into the cost of a set of bagpipes, and like, first you got to get the chanter and the bagpipes. Like, nah, I can't afford the bagpipes, but accordion, I might be able to afford an accordion.
Yeah, because I'll bet you there's a lot of big sales out there. I don't think a lot of people are buying accordions. But you kind of sort of inspired me to try to get back on and learn piano, because you can get the keyboards and do some online lessons until you get an instructor, which I really do like the instructors, because they really do push you. You can learn this, you can do this. Blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So again, Joseph Schneider on with us, who author and of just an amazing book that you can find on his website at jschneiderbooks.com. It's probably the easiest way for you to go. You can look up Amazon and find One Day You'll Burn, and just start typing that in, because you know how everything takes off once you start writing a title in. And you can get Kindle version. There's audiobooks, paperbacks, audio CD, even for that matter. Did you listen to the person who narrated your books? And
yeah, I think he did a really great job. It's not an easy job doing those audiobooks.
No.
Yeah, I was really grateful for his work.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got the same guy for the first two, and Audible has really kind of saved me, because I don't have a lot of time to sit down and read anymore. So I listen to about a book a week, though, because I can do it when I'm doing my chores and all that stuff. It's a huge help.
This is true. I have a lot of friends that do listen. They go, I'm going to have to either listen to a podcast or listen to my book. And I thought about getting into that line to do a book.
You'd be terrific at it.
I just got to. Oh, thank you, by the way.
You have a phenomenal speaking voice.
It's learning the inflections correctly, but then, you do it with the director anyway. They tell you, nope, can you do this part over? But you do it at home now. So
you do it at home now, and they pay you for what they call the finished hours.
Right.
Exactly. So, but yeah, a lot of the narrators I know, they basically pad out a closet, stick in a microphone, and they're turning out studio quality stuff these days. It's incredible.
I'm doing this in my bedroom right now.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah. I just put up a green screen behind me, and of course it won't look like that after editing. Of course, I gave something away. Yeah. So, well, there again, it's people around you, because just like you, with your people that you've got around you that help you move yourself forward. With this podcast, I've got some great friends. Jim Bozo, who's my editor. Thank goodness for him, because without him, it would just be me and you and that green screen. It'll look different after. Trust me, it'll look great. Author Joseph Schneider. And are you still in LA, by the way?
No, I had to move up to the Bay Area for my teaching job. But I go down to LA as often as I can, and it's really kind of my spiritual home, so to speak, because I just know it so well. Um, and also the police department down there that I write about is very different. So like every department has its own quirks, its own way of its own lingo, and so on.
Right.
So yeah, that's where I set my work.
That's fabulous. Oh my gosh. You know, we can go on for hours and hours and hours. And you know what? Maybe we will one of these days, because you're writing another book,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, it'll be
So
it's done already. It will be out in April, and I would certainly love to talk to you again. Um, yeah, it takes place on Catalina Island. Have you ever been to Catalina?
I know I've always meant to, but I
Oh,
haven't.
I think you'd really dig it, man. It's so relaxing, and of course, in
Uh,
the book, horrible, crime takes place there, so it's less relaxing. But it's a beautiful place and very, very chill. I think you'd like it. They got buffalo that escaped from like a movie set there, and so now they got these wild buffalo on the island.
oh, this is great. Oh
Yeah.
man, I'm gonna have to get these books too because I say that they're like whodunits
Oh, they
kind of
are.
thing.
They are. You got two main genres in mysteries, right? You got the whodunits and you got the how catch'ems, where you know who the killer is from the beginning, right? Like on
Ah,
Columbo or Monk, you knew who the killer was. And so
right.
these are I guess more how catch more whodunits. Yeah,
I
for
love
sure.
those. I love whodunits because
Yeah.
as you're going through everybody's trying to be a sleuth, right?
Hmm.
I can figure it out, and then you
Hmm.
get to the part where it is revealed to you who, and you're like, man, was I wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a trap. It's a tricky thing to write those because you want the reader to feel like you play fair. When
Sure.
they get to the end, they should be able to reverse engineer all of the action and have it make sense. And at no point are
Yeah.
they like, I never would have. They have to have the possibility of figuring it out. Otherwise,
Sure.
it's not really fair, right?
Yeah. So all the clues are there for someone
They
who is
should be.
for the reader to
Yeah, they
go
should
like,
be.
could figure it out really,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know. Oh, that's awesome. So that way, so for all of you listening, Joseph Schneider, author, wrote all these fabulous books. Of course, I'm getting to the point where I can't speak anymore. What waits for you, LAPD Detective Tully Jarsdel Mysteries? So getting through there, you know, you can figure out who it is in a whodunit book,
Hmm.
because you give the clues.
You thread them in. Like I put them in red on my beat sheet, so I look and I see, like, are there enough clues, or are there too many? You got to have just the right number of them,
Right.
and you've got to space them out. So um yeah, you don't want anyone calling BS, when they finish it and be like, hey, that was like impossible, like it was this guy who shows up in one scene. Like, that's not fair, right? So it
Yeah,
has to
yeah.
be satisfying. It has to be satisfying. I had a great professor once who said to me, the reaction a reader should have when a mystery is revealed is total amazement followed by, oh, but of course.
Yeah,
That one,
yeah.
yeah, isn't that great? I love
Yeah.
that. And I always try to think of that one-two punch of total amazement, surprise, followed by, oh, of course. So hard to do.
Dang, that's perfect because
Yeah.
like, or in your mind going like, yeah, I kind of thought so,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
but I wasn't quite sure, but I thought so.
Yeah, precisely. Precisely.
And oh, that's good.
Hmm.
It's not like where and I've seen some, not just books, but movies and TV that where they you're trying to figure out who, and but they leave out things and you're just like, well, how could I have figured that one
Yeah.
out, when I
Yeah.
didn't know that until you showed me that towards the end,
Right. Yeah.
kind of a deal. But no, that's great. I love the fact that you can read through this book and then figure out who done
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
Again, Joseph, by the way, Schneider on with us today, and you can access all the details about Joseph and see the links. Let me share this with you again if you are watching, and for those of you who are just listening, you definitely want to go check out jschneiderbooks.com. And for those of you watching, you can see it there. And contact the people, Joseph's people, because he's got people. And you can see, well, when times come back to normal, where he might be, you read about Joseph, you'll see. Do you have that bio up there on your JSchneiderBooks.com?
I think so. I think so. I think it's up there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Let's go to the about.
Oh
Oh, look at
yeah.
that lovely little picture of you,
Oh
huh?
yeah. I look very respectable in that picture. Yeah.
So you got a little bit of the bio up there. So, that's pretty
Mhm.
cool. So you can check all that stuff out. And there are all your ways. And there's the books that you can see. And of course, it'll be linked and you can check all that out, contact appearances. And jschneiderbooks.com, I think you're in for a treat to get those books. And then, of course, we'll all be waiting for that how-to book of for the kids.
Yeah. I'm putting it together. I hope to get that out there. Yeah, that'd be groovy.
You ever think about doing like one of those kid books? The just fun, like for kids.
I would love to. They're so much harder than I would have expected when I know an excellent children's book author named Michael Slack. He's terrific. He's a terrific author, and I could not do what he does. It's a way of imbuing the work with wonder and delight at the same time.
Sure.
And I just don't have that going for me right now as far as children's books are concerned. They're so tough to do. I really admire children's books authors. I think they're just terrific. Terrific.
Oh, because you got to find what it is that makes kids attracted to something like a book.
Mhm.
Yeah. And is that
Exactly.
like almost like the mentality of a child, kind of ish?
Yeah, you have to be able to get in touch with that. And I think I can do that a little bit when I'm teaching, but
Yeah.
writing books for really young kids, that's a whole nother beast. And my hat is off to anyone who could do that.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Joseph Schneider. Again, you got to go to jschneiderbooks.com and take a look at these books. Again, it's not for the young at heart. So parents, go through the book first, read it for yourself. And depending how old your kid is and what you think is appropriate for these kinds of books, then, share away, but man, we all look forward to more books, Joseph.
Thank you.
Look forward to the self-help and maybe who knows, pick up that accordion.
I think I will. That just sounds so cool. And if we talk again down the line, I can tell you I can see if I can play you something. I'll try to get good at it.
As a matter of fact, next time we talk, because we will, set yourself up by your piano and have your accordion set next to that, and then we'll have you play a piece on both. How's that?
Okay.
Huh? What do you think?
Okay. Hey, I like the pressure. I like that.
You can
Thank
do
you.
it, man. You got it going on. I think it'd be fabulous. And then maybe we'll have you do a little dance. Now, a couple things at a time, maybe, because this is not going to be the end. Neither it's the second time. This could be long-lasting, fun little conversations we'll be having on this podcast. So, Joseph Schneider, thanks, man. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for your hospitality. And I really appreciate it. I look forward to speaking with you again someday.
We will. And for all of you hanging out with us today, thank you so much. And John Michaels, Rockbox. We'll see you again next time.